Hey everybody, my name is Chris Gore, and I'm going to be talking to you about how to program with C. And this is a very, very, very beginner level how to program, period. And I happen to be using the C programming language in order to teach you this, which is a little bit unusual. It's not generally considered a beginner's language, but hey, that makes it more fun. So, first off, you need a text editor. And I'm using Emacs. Feel free to use anything else. Notepad in Windows is an option. There's a million others. Vim's popular. Notepad++ is popular in Windows as well. TextMate, but I like Emacs, so let's use that. So first off, you need to make a directory for your work. So we'll make a directory, which we call Learning C, and inside of that, we're going to do a directory for our first program. And our first program will do almost nothing. It will just print hello world out, and that's it, to the screen, and then finish. So what you want to do is, in that directory, make a file that's named hello-world.c. .c is the extension used for C programs, which makes sense. Now, C has almost nothing in it by default, which is nice and irritating at the same time. And one of the things that's not in there, even at the very beginning, is the ability to print to the screen, which you'd think would be in everything, but it's not. So we need to include the ability to talk to standard input and output. And how we do that is we say include with a pound sign at the front. That's the include directive. And the file that we use in this case is the standard IO or stdio header file, which is stdio.h. Now the important parts are you have to have the pound sign at the beginning, or hashtag, or whatever you want to call it. And you have to have these less than, greater than signs surrounding the file name. That gives you the ability to print to the screen and the ability to read from user input and a bunch of other things. Now, every C program starts off with a main function, which is named main. One of the weird things about it is that you have their basic function signature in C. So the name of the function here is main. What it returns is an integer, which was an int. That's an integer. So like, a number. So like 0, 1, 2, 3, negative 40. Those are integers. 3.5, that's not an integer. That's a float. But main returns an integer. And it has to take in two arguments, which is an integer, argc, which is the typical name for it, but you can name it whatever you want. And that's the count of how many arguments it's getting in, and argv, which is all of the arguments. But we're going to completely ignore those for now. So this signature here, you just sort of have to type in, and it's just a magic string at this point. And, so make sure to have the parentheses surrounding the arguments. The comma has to really be there. Int has to be there. And make sure to have both of these stars here before the argv. That's the argument vector. You have to have that. And the other weird thing that you have to have is you have to actually return something. And a program returns 0 in normal situations. So we're just going to return 0 because this will do almost nothing. So right here, this is literally actually the simplest program. It could actually be even simpler. There. Now it's the simplest program. It does nothing. Literally nothing. But we want it to do something, so we will have it print to the screen. So we do printf, which is formatted print, and then it has parens, and you have semicolons at the end of your statements in order to separate it. These are important. If you leave them off, it'll barf on you. And inside it, it takes an argument, which is a string. And strings have these quotes like that. These double quotes. And in these double quotes, we can say, hello, world. And there's one more weird thing you have to do, which is \n. This is a new line, but that will work. This is a completed file that does pretty much nothing. It just prints to the screen, hello world. Then it prints a new line, and then it leaves. It just exits the program, and that's it. So I'm going to save that file. And now if I go back to my shell, I will see that the file's there. Now to compile it, you say, I'm going to use GCC, which is the GNU compiler, and then the C file, and then I tell it to output by -O and just hello world. And so this will make a binary executable called hello-world that does the printing from that C file that we just wrote, which was that one. And you can see that it is complaining at me. Now, this is actually an accident on my part, but it's good because it shows you that the error messages actually are kind of useful. It's saying that the second argument to main must be a car ! And I accidentally typed int ! And that was actually an accident on my part, but it's pretty readable. So this should actually be car ! So I'll resave that, and I'll rerun that command, and now it's happy. It compiled. You see no output, that's good. And if we list, we see there's a hello world executable, and you can tell it's executable in this case because it's red, but in general you can do that, and you see the execute flags. Do a long listing by ls-l. So you've got ls, which is the basic directory listing, and you have a -l, which is to give a long form listing. And you can see it's got executables set, these x's here. So I can run it by saying /, which is our current, so dot's our current directory, hello world. And there you go. So that's the very first C program. Now to review it, the major points are you have to include standard I/O in order to get any ability to print, actually specifically to get printf. You have to remember to have the int return type on main. You have to have the first argument count as an int. You have to make sure to have the commas and the semicolons and the parens and all of that in exactly the right order. You have to have a car ! For the second argument. Even though you're not using these, then you have these printf. Make sure to have the \n at the end of the string. That's your new line. So basically it's pressing enter. And then you have to make sure to return 0. And don't forget these braces either. And if you do that just right, and then if you do the compilation step just right, you'll get an executable, which you can run. And it'll print a very simple little message for you, which is something. Hope that helped. There will be a lot more of these. Thanks. Have fun programming.